In this drawing, we're going to look at two objects together that have relatively different colours and see how they relate. So we did the two objects with the values and we cast one object's shadow onto another so that they could relate. And here we'll do it both with the shadow shapes and also with the colours. So if I were to take my little tangerine and put it here, it would really have no effect and it looks a bit dull and small. If I put it here, it's just hidden away and rather sad, and it's a rather lovely object. So I think this side would make much more sense. You see it casts a really beautiful shadow onto the bowl. It actually looks nicer in the camera than here. It's further over. Anyway, this is a lovely little setup here. So I'm going to do my drawing here. So I'm going to incorporate these two. First of all, we're going to think about the shapes. Then we're going to think about the values and how the values relate to each other, so that you have this lovely cast shadow from the tangerine onto this jug. And then we're going to put the colour in. Obviously my scale is under life size just because of the size of my paper. And I'm putting the subject a little bit further in because I want to get a bit of the cast shadow in. And remember, we relate the objects like that across to each other. My initial angle was slightly off, can you see? It was supposed to be more like that. And then I'm going to go for the shadow shapes. There's a lovely shadow shape here as well. Oops, can you see here? And actually a tangerine is further down, so I should create that line as well, the relationship line. I think my vase could be a bit fatter. So you remember your initial box, which says the width? I think my box wasn't quite wide enough. And I'm not worried about the fact that I made a mistake. That never worries me. What would worry me if I didn't change it once I did make that little mistake. So I think my initial thought was there, and then I changed it because I thought it looked too wide, and actually I should have kept to my initial idea. Then I'm going to block in my shadows. Including this lovely little cast shadow here from the tangerine onto the vase. So that's the essence of the drawing and the relationship. Do you see how kind of lovely and abstract it looks through here and through here? I'm just going to make this really obvious, this lovely shape here. So really it's a completely abstract shape, but it does work with the painting. And then we're going to add colour. So we've done the proportion and the drawings, that's step one, and we've done the values, which is step two. The accents, we'll probably do them with the colour, but the next thing is colour. We first of all see colour in the light. Probably the most singy colour is the orange, because the blue is still a little bit true to this. So I'd probably go for the tangerine colour first. So a little bit of that red with a little bit of the warm yellow. And then I'm going to go for the vase colour. So that's the drawing in its basic, most basic form. We've put 2 colour notes in, we've put the values down, and now we have to try and relate the objects. So first of all, let's think a little bit more about the colour in the shadow. So this shadow colour is definitely redder, but perhaps to make it relate to this object, we could put a little bit of blue, include the blue in it as well, and tie that blue into here. This shadow is definitely blue. And we can put that shape down there. So we're slowly tying in the objects to each other. So you see that's quite purpley in here, and this is quite blue. So perhaps we need a bit of the purple in here. Now I think the wonderful thing about shadows is because we don't see in the dark, so you can be much more playful with the colours in the shadow. The most important thing in the shadow is to keep the values correct, but the colour you can be more playful with. So perhaps in order to relate it to this one, I'm going to add a bit of red into here, especially in that dark in there, but also along the edge. And it doesn't look less like the vase because it's gone more purple. It just looks a little bit more playful. I'm going to also add the highlights to the objects just to make them sing a little bit more. Sorry, you can't see the vase. Yeah. And the highlight to this tangerine, but not a white highlight because that would be too cold. The yellow highlight, like that. Do you see? So now these objects are relating a lot better. I could put a little bit of that turquoise blue even into this shadow. That still makes sense. And for the top, where there's that little accent of green there, you see those little accents, that little blue starts making this sing a little bit more. I'm going to add a bit more richness to this colour through here. We can also start playing with the background to see how that helps our objects and the colours sing even more. But for now, that's a good enough start. I think perhaps here I've gone a bit too purple, so I'm just going to go straight over the shadow edge just to take that blue in. But one thing I don't want you to do, I don't want you to start smudging in with your finger, because colours that sit next to each other, so like in here, you can see the reds and greens and blues sitting next to each other, look much more exciting. At the moment you mix them all together, you're much more likely to get mud. So try and keep the colours really fresh. The impressionists called it optical blending.